Hey folks, how's it going? This is Iron Seagull here, back with another opinion piece. So before I get into today's topic, I'm going to go over a couple of my favorite comments from the last episode, which was about festivals and what I think the future will hold for them in The Sims 4. Alright, so the first comment is from Sienna B. Savage. Festivals in city living. They're a great idea and a positive addition, but there isn't that many activities to do. Like the Humor and Hijinks Festival, there is nothing to do there. I have to say though, they do bring a nice community together when they happen, and some of them are very atmospheric, like the Romance Festival. It's beautiful looking. One way to make them better would be A, for us to be able to edit them, and B, add some extra activities that enable groups to interact together. Yeah, this definitely sums up my opinion on festivals and city living pretty well. Like, yeah, some of the festivals revolved a little too much around just pushing you to use base game stuff a little bit more. There just wasn't like enough actual new stuff to do, and I guess just activities to do in general, and it definitely does not help that you can't edit them because, well, then the festivals stay pretty much the same forever. So then you can't really add things, like say if there's something that is really suited to the Romance Festival that comes in a later expansion pack, you can't add it to there, which really sucks. And a good point about the festivals kind of like bringing the community together, because yeah, it does make the city of San Myshuno feel a bit more alive, just seeing all these Sims come to the festival and just like running into acquaintances or friends or potential future lovers even. It is a really cool idea. I just hope that it can be improved and have more customization later if they do decide to do festivals later on in another pack. The other comment comes from Maple Simmer. I enjoy the festivals in city living, some more than others, and it would be nice if they added more to the game with other packs. I do hope that they add seasonal holiday festivals, and I also hope that they won't be tied to weather, as not everywhere has snow, etc., but they still have holidays. Unless they add the ability to edit public spaces, I prefer future festivals to be on a special lot that can be edited, but perhaps there would just be a placeholder on the lot for the area that needs to have the festival faded and out. Though I'd really love it if they added the ability to edit the public space, as it would be great to be able to add things from packs to the public spaces. Played all the Sims games as they came out, and for a while, for me, Sims 4 is missing things, family play being a big one for me, but not the only one. When I recently gone back to The Sims 2 and Sims 3, I find I miss things from The Sims 4, such as multitasking, how the build mode works, and being able to move freely between the worlds, among other things. I definitely agree that I'd want to see festivals in future packs, but yeah, customization's a big priority for me. Just whatever it takes, really, to be able to have festivals be editable, like that would be great for sure. And I also agree that with The Sims 4, if I did go back to a previous Sims game and play that all the time instead of The Sims 4, then yeah, I definitely would be missing some of the modern touches that The Sims 4 has added, like with the UI or even certain features like the group feature, things like that. Alright, so on to today's topic. So the 17th anniversary of The Sims is today, and I thought it would be appropriate to do an opinion piece where I just talk about The Sims and how it's impacted my life. It's kind of amazing, really. Like, I've played so many different video games in my life, but none have really impacted me the way The Sims has. So I'll talk a little bit about how I actually got into The Sims in the first place. So I was actually introduced to The Sims 1 through a family friend back when I was 11 years old. It was about a year after The Sims 1 came out, because House Party was like the latest expansion pack at the time, and Hot Date was just around the corner, which in my opinion, that was like the perfect time to get into The Sims, because that's when The Sims 1 started like evolving into something much bigger, because like Hot Date was the first expansion pack ever where you were actually able to leave the house. That may seem like a crazy idea now just because it's so normal by Sims standards to just be able to leave the house and like go to a restaurant or the park or whatever. But in The Sims 1, you were originally just stuck in your house and you just had like your void around you. You couldn't even see the other houses, and it was just like, yeah, you'd live and die there. And that was it. But yeah, like one of my childhood friends got me into The Sims 1. At first, like, I kind of looked at The Sims as an RPG of sorts. I think even GameFAQs classified The Sims as an RPG for a while. I can't remember, but for some reason that's what my memory tells me. And I thought, okay, yeah, I guess The Sims is kind of interesting. But then I realized it was actually like the mechanical bull in particular that I remember sold me on The Sims and its premise, because it was then when I realized that The Sims wasn't just like some level grinding RPG. It was like about all aspects of life, like working and playing and just having fun in general, and just like living through these Sims and just having like an alternate life. It was just like, whoa, okay. So then yeah, that's when I ended up getting into The Sims. So I bought like The Sims 1. I can't remember like when exactly I got some of the expansion packs. I know I skipped out on Live and Large for quite a while because I really didn't want roaches in my game, but eventually I was like, okay, you know what, this is kind of dumb. I shouldn't just skip out on Live and Large just because of roaches, because I liked everything else in that expansion pack. But yeah, it was really interesting, just growing up with The Sims and seeing how it evolved. Like, oh man, I remember how excited I was when Unleashed was announced. Like, oh my gosh, my pets can have pets of their own. And that just like made the game so much bigger. And yeah, Superstar was like another really noteworthy expansion pack to me. That was really cool, just being able to make your Sims really famous, and you'd have like obsessed fans following you around. And then with The Sims 2, I almost actually fell out of The Sims because back then I was just kind of baffled by the idea of The Sims being in full 3D and Sims actually being able to die in old age. Like, back then when I was a child, I was a little bit more like rigid in my ways, I guess. Like, I was just like, what? This is too crazy for me. I can't take this. So I stuck with The Sims 1 until Nightlife came out. It was then when I was convinced that, yeah, you know what? Like, The Sims 2 might be worth it. And then I also found out there was an aging off cheat. So, yeah, that's when I ended up getting The Sims 2, and I got the expansions that were out at that time. And a little bit later on in The Sims 2's life cycle, it was like sometime around Seasons, I think. That's when my play habits started changing a little bit, because like during The Sims 1, I don't know, I didn't really treat The Sims too seriously. I was just like, oh yeah, like make some random Sims. Or actually, I didn't make my own Sims that often. I'd usually just play as like the newbies or Michael Bachelor, and I'd do whatever. I don't know. I didn't really have much of a goal in mind. I just kind of like mess around, and then I'd kind of like leave The Sims for a few months and then come back. And then I would play for a few months, like when a new expansion comes out, and then I'd leave it again and then come back a bit later. But then with The Sims 2, once it had more expansion packs, then that's when I became more consistently addicted to The Sims. And that's also when my mind started expanding a little bit. I guess that kind of makes sense, because that's a little bit like, yeah, I was like in my mid-teens around that time, and I started maturing more as a person. And I was like, hey, you know what? It'd be kind of cool if I actually made my Sims have stories and things. And, well, I did download some custom content for The Sims 1, but I really started getting into custom content with The Sims 2. Not almost, I think I did go overboard with The Sims 2. I had so many gigabytes of custom content, and it was also towards the end of The Sims 2 when I started realizing that Maxis Match was kind of like my preferred style of custom content. I don't know if that term even really existed back in The Sims 2. I think in The Sims 3 is when I started seeing Maxis Match being thrown around as a term. But yeah, like I ended up putting so much custom content in The Sims 2 that I was like, whoa, okay, I'm kind of breaking the immersion of the game, like in my own opinion, because when I had too many real-world things in The Sims, it felt like it took away from the identity of The Sims a little bit. It's kind of hard to explain, I guess, but I mean, yeah, there was like H&M stuff and like some of the real branded cars, but there wasn't too much of that like officially in The Sims. But then I realized, yeah, like I like the kind of Simlish text and the Simlish branding and stuff like that. And then The Sims 3 came out during my college years, and that was an interesting time because I remember even when I was playing The Sims 1, I was like, you know what, it'd be really cool if there weren't loading screens. I mean, I even knew back then it was like, okay, back then it was technologically not feasible. But then with The Sims 3, they announced, hey, like, what if you just open the door? And then it's just like you could just explore the neighborhood, the whole neighborhood without loading screens. Even if nowadays I would kind of consider like the lots kind of like taking a few seconds to load up as loading screens in an unconventional way, it was still kind of interesting. Another part of The Sims 3 that really left a big impact on me though was the introduction of the trait system. It actually makes me often forget that traits weren't always a thing in The Sims. We had those personality points, and I found those just like so restrictive. Like, I tend to just have the same Sims because I didn't want my Sims to be complete slobs, and I didn't want my Sims to be like really mean. And it was just like, I mean, I guess it was also partially that my play habits were different back then too, but yeah, like I feel like the traits are just much more interesting than the personality point system, and the trait system really helped me push more into the storytelling direction in The Sims that you can take if you like telling stories with your Sims. Because I mean, one of the great things about The Sims is that there's so many different ways to play the game, not just if like you play with families or if you play with single Sims or whatever, but also taking into account the different game modes. Like, maybe all you do in the game is build houses, which is pretty cool. Or maybe all you do is create Sims. Or any other number of things that you can do in the game, really. So it's interesting to see how many different types of players there are. But yeah, especially like with The Sims 3, I definitely started getting more pushed into the storytelling aspect. I think another thing that also ended up pushing me into just telling more stories with The Sims was that, yeah, like I love creating Sims, but then by the time I'm done creating my Sims, then I do just want to get right into live mode. I didn't really want to build houses, not just because like I didn't feel like taking the time to really learn build mode and like all the advanced things you can do with it, but just like, yeah, like I just wanted to get into the game because I was so interested into getting into live mode and just getting started, getting their jobs and their skills and exploring the world around them and things like that. And The Sims 3 in general, like the experience of that whole lifespan of the game was quite like up and down. It was a bit of an emotional roller coaster for me because I don't know, like it really did feel like at first The Sims was drifting too far away from what it was before. It's kind of funny, like when I first started playing The Sims 1, I was like, this feels like an RPG, and that's how it felt like with The Sims 3, truly. It really felt like it was becoming less of a sandbox and way more of an RPG with the opportunity system and world adventures and how ambitions worked and all that stuff. But yeah, then later on it got better. It was definitely better after like generations and pets. It started feeling more like a real Sims game again. But yeah, like there was like one point where I almost stopped playing The Sims because there was like that period between Late Night and Generations, and at the time at least, it felt like it was taking forever for that game to be announced. And what kind of like was rubbing salt in the wound for me was they were pushing The Sims Medieval really hard, because that was also like coming out pretty soon, and I was just like, I'm not interested in Medieval. I want to hear what's next for The Sims 3, and it was just like, oh man, yeah, The Sims 3 really tested my patience at times. The Sims 4 does sometimes a little bit too, but I'll get to The Sims 4 a bit later. There's still some more stuff to talk about with The Sims 3, because, well, later on in The Sims 3's life cycle, I ended up here on YouTube doing Let's Plays and eventually branching out into other videos, including like info/thoughts and lot showcases and like these opinion pieces more recently. Oh hey, look, there's a seagull on the screen. But yeah, it was also a little bit later on in The Sims 3's life cycle when I started discovering Let's Players on YouTube, like Curtis Parody, Sim Supply, Queen, Rachy Bop, and Sims 3 Loser, a few other people as well. And I did wait until like a year or two later, because I wanted my videos to start off being at least somewhat okay quality. I didn't want to be like potato quality from the beginning. But yeah, I was definitely inspired by those people to also start doing my own videos. So when Dragon Valley came out for The Sims 3, that's when I did my very first Sims 3 video. Well, actually, no, not my very first Sims 3 video with commentary, because the first Sims 3 video I did with commentary was actually a little review on the chicken coop from the Sims 3 store. But then my very first Sims 3 Let's Play was Dragon Valley Rivals, and yeah, that was a good time, and I ended up just sticking with it because, well, I mean, here I am doing this video right now. So it's been like over 3 years since then. It's been a really interesting journey for sure. And another thing that happened towards the end of The Sims 3 was I fell in love for the first time. Because of my YouTube channel, I ended up becoming friends with someone, and it turned out we actually lived pretty close to each other, so we ended up meeting in real life, and things just kind of blossomed from there. Unfortunately, we're not together anymore. I'm not going to delve into why, since that's too personal and would be going too far off topic, but overall, it was an experience I'm glad that I went through, and the fact that a video game brought us together was amazing. And now we're pushing closer to the present as we move into The Sims 4. So leading up to The Sims 4 was kind of an interesting time as well. It also had its own ups and downs, because my favorite Let's Player Queen had sadly passed away. It's my biggest inspiration, and still to this day. And like, it seemed kind of promising at first, but then we started learning about things that were being left out of the base game, and there was a lot of drama. I mean, there still is drama to this day, but yeah, it was kind of crazy, but I still stuck with The Sims 4. I got it on day one and started doing Let's Plays and other videos for that game, especially like after going through The Sims 3. It kind of built up my resilience, knowing that, okay, like, I went through this with The Sims 3 as well, where it felt like The Sims 3 wasn't really too great from the start, but then later on, it got better. And I do feel like that's the way that it's going now. It is starting to get better, and hopefully 2017 will continue to be a really solid year for The Sims 4. But with The Sims 4, I was pushed even further in the storytelling direction, especially with how the worlds are set up in The Sims 4, where you can actually have all the worlds in your one save instead of having a separate save for each world. I started telling my stories in a continuous universe. I kind of did that in The Sims 3, but it wasn't really as impactful as what I'm doing now. And yeah, like, that's so fun. Like, that's one thing I don't think that's really appreciated enough with The Sims 4. It's just the fact that you can just have all of these worlds in your one save and easily jump between them. But The Sims 4 has left a big impact on me in a way that I never saw coming, because it was in June of 2016 that I was contacted by EA to actually do a review of The Sims 4 Kids Room stuff. I actually got an early access copy, and that was just such a shock to me because I don't know, for quite a long time it always felt like, even though there were certain points where my channels kind of got small bursts of growth, especially the period leading up to The Sims 4's release, it was just I don't know, it always felt like my channel wasn't really gonna go anywhere big at all, let alone actually be officially recognized by EA. But yeah, it actually happened, and it got even better because in October I was invited to attend Sims Camp for a preview of the City Living expansion pack. I had to pinch myself to make sure that I wasn't dreaming when I got that email, because I've followed the Sims community very closely for years, and I've just seen all these pictures from the previous Sims Camp events. It was oh man, it'd be so cool if I actually got to go to one of these one day and meet other Simmers who play the game, and also meeting the producers and getting to play the game early as well. On top of that, it's just yeah, it just seemed like such a cool experience. And sure enough, I was right, because yeah, going to that City Living Sims Camp, that was easily one of the best experiences of my whole life, and I have all you guys to thank for that. And that leads up to 2017. We're in February right now, and it's already been an interesting year so far, because a few weeks after completely losing hope that toddlers would ever come to The Sims 4, they ended up just being dropped on us, just as a complete surprise. And it's just I was just left in shock. I just couldn't believe that it happened. Even now, it's still a little bit hard to believe. I actually still leave that "Toddlers Are Here" pop up in my main menu just to remind myself, wow, that really happened. And we got an amazing game pack as well surrounding vampires. That was something that I was really hoping we'd get, another supernatural creature, and I was definitely happy with how the vampires were done. Definitely the best vampires in the series so far. Even though I had lost hope for toddlers, I still had hope that The Sims 4 could become a really great game. And I feel like that is starting to happen, so hopefully the momentum that has come off the first month of 2017 will continue. It seems like we will be getting a Pets expansion pack later this year. Fingers crossed that it will happen, because I think it is time that we start getting the true, heavy hitter expansion packs. And just looking back, it is interesting how each and every iteration of The Sims has left an impact on me in a different way. With The Sims 1, that was just kind of me trying to wrap my head around this very unique game that hadn't really been done at the time. And then in The Sims 2 was when I actually started getting really hooked on The Sims. And then with The Sims 3, that's kind of when I started really getting into the storytelling aspect and developing my YouTube channel more and establishing real friendships through the Sims community. And then with The Sims 4 being more recognized on a professional level. Wow, it's just really interesting just looking back and reflecting on all that stuff. Just the very experience of recording this video is interesting, because I've had all these thoughts for a while, but just compiling them all together and articulating them here is just wow, it just makes the whole impact that The Sims has had on my life, it makes it feel even more profound. I really hope that The Sims will continue to go on for a long time, because yeah, that would just leave a hole in my heart if The Sims just stopped completely after The Sims 4. I think The Sims does still have a lot of life left, and a lot of stuff that it could potentially explore in future installments. And yeah, I mean, there's series like Mario, he's been around for over 30 years, Sonic's been around for over 25, so hopefully The Sims can last at least as long as that. And I hope The Sims will continue to make an impact for generations to come. It's kind of interesting already seeing that happen because, like, there's people who play The Sims now who weren't even born when The Sims 1 was out. Like, isn't that crazy? Like, wow, that's just amazing to me. I was like 11 when I started playing The Sims 1, and that was only a year after it came out. And it also reminds me of just like, I kind of like make these comparisons to The Simpsons sometimes, but it really does feel kind of similar in some ways, even though the mediums are completely different, where it's like my dad got me into The Simpsons because he likes The Simpsons, and and I still watch The Simpsons to this day, and it's interesting seeing that happen with The Sims as well. And I mean, it would be really interesting, like, whenever I have kids one day, that I can introduce them to, like, I don't know what Sims game it will be by that time, however my love life goes. But I mean, it could be like The Sims 6 or The Sims 7 or whatever, but it'd be really cool to introduce my future kids to that Sims game, and they end up becoming Simmers as well, and it's like a family of Simmers. And yeah, like, that idea just sounds like so cool to me. And that's actually kind of funny. I'm talking about how cool something would be, and there's footage of winter in The Sims 3 on the screen right now. But yeah, like, just, yeah, I really hope that The Sims will continue to stick around for decades to come. It's been a really interesting 17 years, and I hope it'll at least last another 17. And there we go, that wraps up my thoughts on The Sims and what it means to me. So feel free to leave a comment in the comment section below about how The Sims has impacted your life, and I may feature it in the next opinion piece that I do. So be sure to leave a like or a comment or even subscribe, because it lets me know that you like my channel and my videos, and it helps you keep up to date more easily with the latest content for me, because I do videos on The Sims, Sonic the Hedgehog, and more. So I'll talk to you later, guys, and have a great day. Thanks for watching, and happy 17th anniversary to The Sims.